Hello, my name is Maria Mendes, and today I'm going to be speaking about the computer assistant language learning environments, research practice, and critical issues. And this will be on Chapter 1, the Introduction, Foundations for Teaching and Learning.
If you hear terms like blog, wiki, or web 2.0, it's easy to feel intimidated, like we need to be computer experts. But this chapter completely redefines call for us. The author states clearly a theory of call is simply a theory of second language acquisition. And what does it mean? It means call is not a separate field, it's just the application of the second language acquisition theory using technology. So the most important knowledge for a teacher isn't about the latest tab. It's about understanding how languages are learned and how to create the best possible learning environments. Technology is only a tool to help build those environments. Let's think this way. If a doctor is most focused on having the newest stethoscope than on knowing how to diagnose an illness, then the patient is in trouble. Our focus must be on the learning, not the tool. Now let's move to the pillars of this chapter. The authors build their entire argument on three key theoretical pillars. The first pillar says, no new theory needed. The chapter's core principle is a direct quote. A theory of call is simply a theory of the second language acquisition. This means that we don't need a special call theory. What we need is a solid understanding of second language acquisition theory. The principles of how people learn languages don't change just because we add a computer. Using technology is like cooking with a mother oven. The basic principles of cooking don't change, only the tool changes. And the second pillar, the learning equation. So to explain how learning happens, the chapter uses Spolsky's 1989 equation. Ability plus motivation plus learning environment equals language learning. As teachers, we can't directly control a student's natural ability or their personal motivation, but what we can directly do is control and design the learning environment. This is where we must focus our energy, says the author. So if a student isn't learning, the question isn't, did the technology fail? No. The real question will be, did I fail to create the right environment? And now the third pillar are the 8 optimal conditions. To show us how to create that perfect environment, the authors provide their main framework, 8 research-based conditions. These aren't just tips. They are the golden rules for effective language learning, with or without technology. This is the practical model that guides everything else. Okay, so now let's go through these 8 conditions. The key is that technology is not the goal. It's a way to meet these conditions better. I'll show you now a traditional example and a technology-based example for each one. I'll just go quickly reading 2 or 3 examples. For example, we have the first condition, real interaction. With this one, we will have traditionally a pair work in class, for example. Right? We have all done this before. And with the use of the technology, this could be a chat with a native speaker using any app. Could be Skype, could be Meet, could be Zoom, any. The goal is interaction. And this Skype, Zoom, or Meet will be just the tool. Now let's go to another example. For example, the condition here will be a real world task. For example, the traditional will be read a text from the book. And a cool task will be, for example, when you look up real train schedules on a website. So in this case, the same. The task is real, and the website where the student is going to look for a train schedule will be the tool. Now let's think about a boring class that you have ever had. Which of these conditions were probably missing? Think about it. And now let's think about a great engaging class. Which conditions were present? That's the point. Good teaching meets these conditions. Technology can help us do that. So now let's talk about invisible technology and action research. What's the ultimate goal of using technology? The chapter says it should become invisible. The best technology is like air conditioning. When it works perfectly, you don't notice it. You just feel comfortable. So you only notice the air conditioner when it's broken. And in class, we don't want students thinking about how to use the software. We want them focused on the learning task. I would say that a bad lesson plan will go like this. Teacher saying, today we will learn to use PowerPoint. In here, the technology will be the focus. But a good lesson plan will say, today we will create a presentation about our city for international friends. So now the students will use PowerPoint, but they won't be thinking about it. They'll be thinking about their city, their audience, and their English. The technology has become invisible. Now, in regards to the action research, finally, the chapter talks to us as future teachers. How do we know if our whole environment is working? We do action research. This is not complicated academic research. It's just a simple cycle. Ask, observe, and act. So first, you ask a simple question. Are my students learning with the method or this app? Then you observe. You take notes. You record your students with permission, of course. You give a short survey. And finally, you act on what you find. And in the result will be changing what isn't working. For example, if you see students that are bored by a vocabulary app, then you try a different one or a different activity. That act of noticing and changing is action research. It keeps our teaching focused on the learner.
Now let's compare our main text, the cold book, with a research article. The first one is focus on profession teaching insights using a technology in a second language acquisition classroom. First, look at the structure. While the cold book is a practical guide, this article is a theoretical analysis. It doesn't give us a checklist. Instead, it examines a problem, how using technology changes teachers' professional values and identity. The research method is also different. It's not an experiment with data. It's a reasoned argument about how the struggle to master tools like interactive whiteboards can actually help teachers grow professionally. Let's take a look at some of the pros and cons. On the positive side, the article says technology is not just a tool for students, it's a tool for teacher development. Overcoming technology challenges builds confidence and helps from trust based partnerships with students. On the negative side, it honestly addresses the real barriers for teachers, like lack of time, the fatigue or extra preparation, and often a lack of reward for that extra work. The major finding is powerful, I will say, because the article concludes that using technology doesn't just change how we teach, it changes who we are as teachers. It leads to a new, more equal relationship where teacher um, become a mentor or a guide, helping students educate themselves. And finally, the reflection on theory and practice is fundamental. This article shows us that the theory of the second language acquisition and the practice, that which is using technology in class, are connected through the teacher's own professional growth. And for this to work, institutional support is essential. Schools need to help teachers with time and training. So, in summary, the Cold Book tells us what to do, right, with the 8 conditions. And this article makes us think about who we become when we do it and what support we need. Now, the second article, let's take a look at this one. That is, this was written by Barshawa and Meskel from the year 2000. First, let's take a look at the structure. This article takes us on a short journey. It starts with a story or a history of classroom technology from the blackboard to the audio lab. And then it organizes modern teaching into two main mindsets: the cognitive approach, which is focused on the mind, and the social cognitive approach, that is focused on the social interaction. And it uses 3 real world case studies to show what successful technology use looks like in different classrooms. In the research method, the authors don't run experiment. Instead, they analyze these case studies, and they say that asking the question, are computers better than not computers, is just like a question that is not that important. The right question will be, how do we use the technology well? And the answer that they give focuses on social tools like the online chats known as CMC and the web. Now, when we take a look at the pros and the cons, we see that on the positive side, technology lets students have real conversation, which is great. They make class participation more equal and breaks down those walls of distance and time. But on the negative side, it's expensive, requires a lot of teacher time to learn, and coordinating online projects that can be very difficult. Their findings are crucial. They found that the use of the technology allows for a deeper blend of language, culture, and content. But the most important part is not the computer, is the what they call the humanware, not the hardware, but the humanware. And the success depends entirely on the teacher's skill in designing good activities, of course. And then they say that the goal of language teaching is to help students join new communities and conversations. They also say that technology should humanize learning, that technology should make it more creative and collaborative, not just, like automate drills. But building programs like this takes years and needs strong support from school leaders. So just to conclude, this article teaches us the most powerful technology in the classroom is not the computer, is the prepared and supported teacher. Now moving to Article 3, this one is from 2006 and is um, the advantages and disadvantages of computer technology. The structure here is very straightforward. It's a discussion paper that clearly lists the good sides, the pros, and the bad sides, the cons of using the technology, and then concludes by saying what that we must know both of them. The research method isn't a new experiment, it's a review paper, actually. The authors gather and summarize what other researchers and teachers had already said about this topic. And among the pros and the cons, we have that on the good side, technology gives students flexibility to study anytime, uses real world materials, helps shy students participate, which is very important, and can even analyze students' work to give feedback. But on the bad side, it's very clear technology is expensive and not fair for all schools because it requires skills that many teachers don't have, and most importantly, the software itself is still limited and it can have real conversations or answer complex questions like a human teacher can. About their major finding is simple. Technology helps students learn, but to use it well, we must be honest about its limitations, not just excited about its possibilities. And finally, they say that about theory and practice is a practical warning. They said teachers need to be taught both the pros and the cons. And even though by the year they did this, it was 2006, their point is still true today. Our computer programs are still not smart or interactive enough. We need to keep developing better tools, according to what they say, of course. And well, in summary, this article gives a very practical, balanced checklist. It reminds us that being a good teacher with technology means seeing the whole pictures, the help that it provides, and the problems it creates.
Well, to conclude, we could say that looking at the cold book and these three articles together shows us one clear and unified message. Technology does not replace teaching. It does not magically solve learning problems. Instead, its true power depends entirely on us, the teachers. From the code book, we learned that our job is to design optimal environments using the 8 key conditions. The research articles all support this from different angles. Technology can help us achieve those conditions, but only if we understand learning theory first, recognize its real world limits like cost, training needs, and imperfect software, and focus on human connection and our own growth as educators. And the most important piece of technology in the classroom is it's not the computer, it's the software or the internet. It's really the prepared, reflected, and supported teacher. And our goal is not to use more technology. Our goal is to use it wisely to make language learning more human, more interactive, and more meaningful for our students. Thank you for watching.